This bulletin proudly brought to you in association with Alex Campbell's Menswear.
Tonight on The South Today, thousands of dollars have been raised for a family who lost everything in a house fire at Portobello on Saturday. 3 relocatable houses have been auctioned, with one raising funds for charity. And scenic train trips from Dunedin are to be trialled this summer, testing local demand. Kia ora, good evening. I'm Daryl Baser. Thousands of dollars have been raised online to help a Dunedin family after their home was destroyed by fire. Portobello tenant Alice Hudson yelled for her children to get out moments before their home went up in flames. More than $20,000 has been raised to help a Portobello family whose home was destroyed by fire on Saturday. 100km/h winds fanned the blaze, which destroyed the family's rented home in a matter of minutes and led to the evacuation of surrounding homes. Almost as soon as the fire was out, the family was inundated with donations of clothing, money and other valuables as the Portobello and wider Dunedin communities came out to support them. Fire and Emergency New Zealand Incident Controller Pete Douglas says firefighters focused on saving the surrounding buildings in what were extreme conditions.
The first 2 arriving crews did extremely well to stop it from spreading into their property. At this stage we have one structure that is 80% plus damaged by fire. We also have a lot of spot fires that are still occurring at this point behind the properties.
Alice Hudson says she saw puffs of smoke, then the trees on the property catching fire in the windy conditions. A loud bang came shortly after the fire started, which was her car exploding. Douglas says the whole situation was volatile, so residents were evacuated.
We have residents from the street being put in the town hall due to the fact of the smoke and the spot fires as well, incurring possibly more hazard to those occupants.
Yeah, we're under control.
We have the police looking after that sector, and we believe it won't be long before they should be able to come back as well.
28 residents from 14 surrounding homes were taken to the nearby hall. But Civil Defence says most evacuees were back in their homes later on Saturday night. Fire Officer Douglas says Saturday's blustery conditions exacerbated the situation.
The wind is really working against us at the moment, but we're slowly getting on top of it. I believe within around about half an hour or so we will have this fully under control. The wind will dictate those actions that we have.
The fire was also devastating for the owners of the Beaconsfield Road property, Heather and Warren Morris, who purchased the home in 1989 to live in, but had been renting it out in recent years. In Dunedin, The South Today. An independent review into the Invercargill City Council has found major issues. The report, released this afternoon, says Sir Tim Shadbolt struggles to carry out significant aspects of his mayoral role, creating a leadership void within council. An independent governance review of the council was carried out in August following concerns raised about the performance of the mayor and councillors. As well as Sir Tim's struggles, the review highlights 6 other key issues, including the mayor's relationship with the chief executive and the conduct of the deputy mayor. Sir Tim has criticised the report, saying he shouldn't be the scapegoat for the council's failings. At a meeting earlier this month, the council unanimously voted to adopt the findings of the review and agree to an action plan to address the issues. 3 relocatable houses have gone under the hammer, one raising funds for charity. The homes were built by Carpentry students from the Otago Polytechnic and attracted a crowd of aspiring buyers.
For the second, third and final time at $325,000, ladies and gentlemen, I am sold. Congratulations.
A sizable crowd turned up for this year's auction of 3 houses built by Otago Polytechnic Carpentry students. Now in its 13th year, the program sees one house sold with all proceeds going to charity. The house was sold to local couple Barry and Karen Rowe, who have been renting for several years and are looking forward to having their own house again.
So the landlord might get a shock if he sees this.
They love us.
Thanks to local sponsors, the charity home is completely fitted out with appliances. In recent years, the houses have sold for little over $250,000. This year, after stiff bidding, the Rose eventually paid $325,000 for the home.
We sort of thought 300. Yeah. And with what they paid for the other houses unfinished, I think we've done pretty well. Yeah.
The Rose are now looking for a section for the relocatable house to be shifted to.
Find somewhere to put it.
That's the problem.
That's the next thing. Yeah.
The other two houses, which are less finished, were both snapped up by a Mosgiel property developer who paid an average of $270,000 for each, with the intention of making them available for sale again once he locates them to a site. In Dunedin, the South Today.
Asbestos removal from Dunedin's old Cadbury factory is expected to be completed about April next year. The former chocolate factory is set to be demolished, making way for the city's new hospital. A Ministry of Health spokeswoman says they've found more asbestos than was accounted for in the original survey. Access has been difficult in a few areas, and extra workers have been brought in order to keep the program on track. Removal of the silos, which are due to be cut up and recycled, is expected to happen mid to late next year. Overall, those behind the project say it's progressing well. Scenic train trips from Dunedin will be trialled this summer to test whether domestic tourists and Otago residents are keen to jump on board. The assets of Dunedin Railways Limited have been in hibernation since July, but some will return to the tracks next month. Unmothballing trains to gauge interest. The Dunedin City Council and Dunedin City Holdings hope Dunedin residents and New Zealand tourists will take up the offer to ride the rails again around Otago.
Initial services will run to Waititi, a resumption of the Seasider excursion train, and then the other service will run up the gorge as far as Hindon and return, a shorter trip than the previous full trip up to Middlemarch.
Rail journeys are set to begin on December 20th for a 3-month trial to see who might occupy seats traditionally filled by overseas tourists. Dunedin Mayor Aaron Hawkins says the DCC has agreed to underwrite a limited season of rail services, allowing the Seasider, Dunedin to Waitati and back, and the Inlander, Dunedin to Hindon and back, to run on Sundays.
So Council have committed to underwrite the project effectively, which will cost up to $65,000 per month over the 3-month period. That doesn't account for any ticket sales, of which we know there will be some and hope there will be plenty, but that's the worst case scenario for us, if you like, is $65K a month.
Before COVID-19 derailed the international tourism sector, about 80% of Dunedin Railways customers were international tourists, with 25% of that coming from cruise ship passengers. Mayor Hawkins says making the decision to mothball Dunedin Rail earlier this year was an emotional one for him.
The decision we made in March was probably the hardest one I've ever had to make, mostly because of the great staff and volunteers that have been involved in building up this iconic visitor attraction.
The Inlander trip is set to feature gorges, bridges and tunnels as it follows part of the route constructed during Otago's gold rush. Keith Cooper says they're hoping locals will leap at the chance to ride the rails over the holiday period. Aaron Hawkins says the council will also meet the ongoing costs connected to the company's now partial hibernation. In Dunedin, the South Today. And still to come on the South Today, we chat with a retiring radio host. The Balclutha Brass Band plays Christmas carols in Clinton, and we pop into an embroidery exhibition. See you soon.
Hi, Al Campbell Menswear. We're back in George Street on the corner of Hanover Street. come and check out our big store. It's a big space full of bargains. Now look at these shirts. There's shirts for everybody here. Look at these merino pullovers, stacks of moleskins, literally tons of trousers. Check out these big racks of sports jackets. Beautiful.
Every reason, every season, we're proud to dress the region. Alex Campbell Menswear, it fits.
So come and check out Alex Campbell Menswear. We're back on George Street in the old ANZ building.
A poorly maintained heat pump can lose up to 35% of its output. The Mr. Heat Pump Cleaner team are experts. Their specially developed chemical wash is totally biodegradable. Call Mr. Heat Pump Cleaner and get the job done by the professionals.
If you're at risk of developing melanoma skin cancer, you owe it to yourself to have a mole map. Mole map is coming to your area. Phone today to make an appointment. It could save your life.
Every reason, every season, we're proud to dress the region. Alex Campbell Menswear, it fits.
You've seen us in the street, now find us online. Check out shopon.org.nz. We have all sorts of treasures, from retro and vintage clothing to antiques, homewares and accessories. New items added every week. We're open 24/7.
Inside are all sorts of innovations from all over China.
No mai no, welcome back. A well-known Dunedin radio host is taking a break from the airwaves. Callum Proctor of The Hits has hosted his last breakfast show and is looking forward to his future.
And the Hits weather for Dunedin, another fine day ahead today, a bit of cloud in the morning.
After 32 years working for radio, Dunedin breakfast show host Callum Proctor is taking a well-earned break. He says even from a very young age he really wanted to work in radio.
As a kid, that was what I wanted to do. I was fascinated with the industry, and when I knocked on the door one day, I just arrogantly asked for a job, which you could do back then, and I was lucky enough to get in through the back door and start as a young fella.
Over time, he learned and improved the craft of verbal communication and got the chance to develop his skills along some of the legends of the airwaves.
I mean, I never thought I'd sit alongside Paul Holmes or, even, like Neil Collins here, Colin Lehman, and those kind of people, and just watching and learning from them is what kind of, helped me develop as a young broadcaster.
He's met some remarkable people along the way, including Lisa Dobson, who became an advocate for breast cancer awareness while fighting the disease herself.
Her story and to inspire other New Zealand women to to get checked regularly, and she was dying of breast cancer when she came in to chat with us, and she was so brave and courageous, and she brought her wee boy in and husband, and it was only a matter of weeks later that she passed away.
Proctor is swapping his headphones and microphone for a job running a courier van, but says he'll stay connected with many of the public events he's been associated with. In Dunedin, the South Today.
A brass band from Balclutha has gone out into the wider community to entertain the public over the festive season. Normally just playing in Balclutha, the band has taken the opportunity to perform Christmas carols in Clinton.
It was Christmas in the park for about 60 Clinton residents who turned up at the Clinton Triangle to enjoy carols performed by the visiting Balclutha Brass.
Just a section of carols, so we thought it was a good opportunity to have a bit of a picnic tea in the park and just provide some background music. So.
Enjoying a bag of hot chips while they watched was local couple Marion and Reg Smith.
My favourite carol is, let me think, it's Hark the Herald Angels Sing.
The hour-long concert marks the first time in several years the 12-member brass band has played outside their hometown. Band President Dale Anderson says the band, which first formed in 1886, puts on regular performances in Balclutha.
And we do a regular play out sort of end of October through to December, just at some of the local elder care facilities and things like that, just to entertain some of the locals.
And Balclutha Brass are planning to continue to put on performances across the wider district. In Clinton, the South Today.
Embroiderers from across Otago have exhibited their work at Dunedin's Community Gallery for their annual gathering. The event drew the editor of New Zealand Embroiderers Guild magazine Stitch to the city, who says the calibre of southern stitching is very high. Neatly completed stitches as far as the eye can see. In Stitches 2020 is this year's Otago Embroidery Guild exhibition, featuring work stretching from the classical to the highly contemporary.
And there's a range of that here, and the standard of stitching is brilliant here. It's very good. And I was told yesterday that it's not selected. So this is not selected. It's including people who've maybe not done very much at all.
Threads magazine editor Carolyn Strachan is visiting the event from the North Island and following conversations with fellow Stitch fans around the world, says Aotearoa is needles down ahead of other countries.
New Zealand, as it is in many art forms, is way ahead of everybody else. I've got friends over in Canada who say, oh, your quilting in New Zealand is magnificent, it's so contemporary. And same with New Zealand embroidery.
The exhibition is also a friendly competition with awards handed out across several categories. Jane Wilson's family narrative piece, In the Winter, taking out the Best in Show award, as well as the Excellence in Contemporary or Mixed Media work. This piece, Weather Tree, earned Pam Wilson a highly commended in the Mixed Media Contemporary Design section. She says it's encouraging to receive her first commendation after only joining the Guild a few years ago.
It's actually based on Dunedin's weather, so it was a stitch pretty much every day, and the stitch that I did on that day was the colour was based on the maximum temperature recorded here in Dunedin. So as you move around the tree, the darker colours in January, February are the hotter temperatures, and the cooler ones around the bottom part of the tree, June, July, August, quite light in comparison.
Threads magazine is celebrating 40 years of publication and can be found at www.embroiderynz.co.nz. In Stitches 2020 wraps up at Dunedin's Community Gallery on the afternoon of Saturday, November the 21st. In Dunedin, the South Today. And after the break on the South Today, we recap the main stories of the day and have a look at your weather. See you after the break.
Every season, we're proud to dress the region. Alex Campbell Menswear, it fits.
A poorly maintained heat pump can lose up to 35% of its output. The Mr. Heat Pump Cleaner team are experts. Their specially developed chemical wash is totally biodegradable. Call Mr. Heat Pump Cleaner and get the job done by the professionals.
If you're at risk of developing melanoma skin cancer, you owe it to yourself to have a mole map. Mole map is coming to your area. Phone today to make an appointment. It could save your life.
Step into Shop on Carol and discover a shop full of treasures. We have a fantastic range of vintage and retro clothes, upmarket clothing labels, collectible items, beautiful jewellery, quality linen and the best range of vintage haberdashery.
Hi, Alex Campbell Menswear. We're back in George Street on the corner of Hanover Street. Come and check out our big store. It's a big space full of bargains. Now look at these shirts. There's shirts for everybody here. Look at these merino pullovers, stacks of moleskins, literally tons of trousers. And check out these big racks of sports jackets. Beautiful.
Every reason, every season, we're proud to dress the region. Alex Campbell Menswear, it fits.
So come and check out Alex Campbell Menswear. We're back on George Street in the old ANZ building.
TV, our favourite babysitter, but it can be tough keeping up with what our tamariki are watching. Luckily, the Broadcasting Standards Authority has made some smart changes to the classification labels. Ooh! Plus changes to the time of day certain rated shows will air and awesome new parental lock features, meaning your babysitter's job is safe. Find out more at safeviewing.co.nz.
What have you got? Okay. Chicks World, party time, excellent. Love it. Chicks World. Chicks World. Right.
Thanks for staying with us. Thousands took part in this year's Queenstown Marathon, with moderate temperatures and slightly overcast skies making the job easier for the athletes. Despite borders being shut due to COVID-19, numbers were almost on par with last year.
Runners enjoyed a slightly overcast day with moderate temperatures while competing in this year's Queenstown Marathon. Despite the country's borders being closed and keeping overseas competitors away, 11,000 runners and walkers took part in this year's event, only 1,000 less than last year. It was a sprint to the finish in one of the closest men's races on record, with David Houndschmidt edging ahead, only about 40 seconds ahead of the next two runners. Houndschmidt, who came down from Tauranga, says his main objective was to enjoy the day, not to win the event.
I'm pretty surprised. I came with no expectations just to have fun. Didn't I'll be here, but yeah, fantastic.
Hannah Oldroyd, who won the marathon in 2018, repeated her success, only about 5 minutes behind Houndschmidt. Jack Moody and Olivia Ritchie took the honours in the half marathon. The event is expected to have injected about $10 million into the local economy. In Queenstown, the South Today.
And now recapping tonight's top stories on the South Today. Thousands of dollars have been raised for a family who lost everything in a house fire at Portobello on Saturday, more than $20,000 raised so far. 3 relocatable houses have been auctioned over the weekend, with one raising funds for charity. Scenic train trips from Dunedin are to be trialled this summer, testing local demand for the mothballed rail service. Time now for a look at what's happening tomorrow's Otago Daily Times. We welcome Deputy Editor Craig Page.
Evening, Daryl.
G'day.
Hey, look, we're having a look at this review into the Invercargill City Council, which was released today, and it paints a pretty dismal picture of the goings-on of the council. If we think we've got some bickering going on at Dunedin, it's nothing compared to down there. It was a governance review carried out at the request of the Department of Internal Affairs, following concerns really about the performance of both Mayor Tim Shadbolt and councillors. And the reviews found that Sir Tim is struggling to carry out significant aspects of his role as mayor, and that's been well reported on, I think, in recent months. And it's leaving a bit of a leadership void down there. He's also got a poor working relationship with the CEO, Claire Hadley, which is also causing issues. And there's also criticism of the Deputy Mayor, Nobby Clark, who apparently needs to adopt a more collegial approach within the council. So lots of problems down there. So Tim sort of hit back today, saying the report was flawed and he has no intention of resigning as mayor. So yeah, lots of problems. Hopefully they can get to the bottom and get things sorted out, because they're going nowhere fast at the moment. Santa's arrived in Wanaka today. It's an 18-metre tall fiberglass Santa, which has graced Auckland streets for about 60 years. And it's been purchased by the Wanaka National Transport and Toy Museum. Paid $1 for it. I'd love to know what it cost to get it trucked down here, though. It took several days. And it's been described by some as the creepy Santa. It sort of sat up there in Auckland and had a finger pointing and a winking eye, which used to scare a lot of children, apparently. So he's dismantled into about 16 pieces, and it was trucked down over a few days. And he's going to take a bit of time to reassemble, and a lot of work involved to get him back up and running. But they hope this time next year it will be a feature at the museum up there. So
excellent.
Yeah,
all that and much more.
Thank you, Daryl.
Appreciate it, Greg.
Cheers.
Thanks. Time now for a brief look at the weather.
Tonight's weather proudly brought to you by Mole Map.
Beginning with the southern view, one of Santa's little elves helping Dunedin's Christmas tree go up. Looking at the situation, a depression moves across central New Zealand tomorrow, but it'll be too far north to have any impact on Otago and Southland, where our weather should remain fine and sunny. Starting off with the northwest of the South Island, mostly cloudy in Westport with 17 degrees. Greymouth is due to be 18 under mostly sunny skies. The northeast, have your umbrella handy with you in Nelson and Blenheim, as you can expect scattered showers and 16 degrees. In Canterbury, you can expect a cloud or two in your skies with 14 degrees in Kaikoura, a few clouds in Christchurch with 15, and partially cloudy skies and 17 in Ashburton. In the southern towns, light winds and clear skies for all down here, but you're all due for 19 degrees for the Catlins, Balclutha and Lumsden. Gore should run lower on 18. In central Otago, light winds and clear skies for all over here, 22 degrees in Wanaka, Queenstown and Alexandra, with 17 degrees in Tiano. In the northern towns, moderate northeasterlies and fine weather with 18 degrees on the coast in Timaru, similar in Oamaru, and your high is due to be 16, light winds and some cloud in Twizel and Omarama, and you're due for 21 degrees. In Dunedin, fine tonight with northeasterly winds, an overnight low of 9, mostly fine tomorrow with breezy northeasterlies, a high of 16 and a low of 10, similar on Wednesday with a repeated high of 16 and 10. And at Invercargill, fine tonight with southwesterlies and an overnight low of 7. Mostly fine tomorrow with a predicted high of 18 and a low of 7. Similar again on Wednesday, your high should be 18 and a low of 8. See you tomorrow. Ka kite anō.
This bulletin proudly brought to you in association with Alex Campbell's Menswear.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.